years later, after writing more articles and after doing a lot of YouTubing and more videos for them and showing that we were willing to just be a contributor, and just give to bigger pockets, and contribute stuff. And it was never like, and a lot of people have gone to bigger pockets and said, oh, I want to write a free article for you, and you can put it up and then people can just download it, or they give me their email address. They're really just trying to harvest the community, right? It's inauthentic to do that, right? We just came on and we just said, we want to contribute on no questions asked, one way. Do unto others, man. Just give it one way, and we knew it would come back.
And good to see you again, man.
Good to see you too, brother. How you been?
Good, doing really well. Yeah, really well. We got a lot of folks here joining us today. And so, guys, if you don't know Matt, you should. He wrote a book on raising money for real estate. What's the actual title of the book, Matt, so folks know where to go find it?
It's similar to another one that you guys had on. It's called Raising Private Capital.
Okay, Raising Private Capital, guys. It is a handbook. It's a guide.
The Bigger Pockets book, Amazon bestseller, and that's something that we're very excited about and proud of.
So Matt's a multifamily syndicator. He has done, Matt, where's your portfolio up to date, and how much money have you raised up to this point?
Well, we own and operate, and that we around 1,150 units, and that it's the operate. There's plenty of folks that are part of teams that of that, but it's the operations side. Thank you, Linda. Read my book. Appreciate you in that. So I hope this makes it better to see me with my dear. So there we go. I got to put a ring light on. Anyway, it's the operations side that I think takes a lot of our wherewithal and a lot of the strength and a lot of what I think makes DeRosa stand out, along with the capital raising side of the team. So we raise and we run what it is we're involved in.
Got it. So Matt, there's a lot of, I want to make the most of our time today. The thing that I see you doing the best, man, there's two questions I have for you, and then we can get into whatever, answer some questions from folks. We've been talking a lot today about leveraging other people's money, raising capital, right? I mean, that's how you grow a real estate portfolio, is you leverage other people's money. But the thing that I see you doing so good is OPA. Do you know what I'm talking about? OPA.
No. What's the A?
Other people's audiences.
Yes.
Other people's audiences. Like you are Mr. Bigger Pockets. And so we've been talking about funnels, right? And how to bring people up here. And I think one of the most fastest ways to do that is through other people's audiences. And so can you talk about your strategy and how you have done that in your career, and kind of even this, I mean, it is a tactic of using other people's audiences to grow your own funnel. We talk about that strategy and how you.
It's interesting because I'm about to have a podcast, but I don't have a podcast up till now. I have had a YouTube channel that was originally intended for me sending videos to my investors to tell them how the projects they were involved with are doing, and other people started watching the videos. They're like, "Oh, hey, people want to watch this." But for the most part, we just aligned ourselves with bigger stages than we could create on our own. And presented our message on those stages. And the key to OPA, I think that it is, if I may just tell you the reason why I think you can be successful, because anybody could go on somebody else's stage and talk about how great their deal is versus the other person's deal. You got to have a brand and a message, that you can and be worth and have a conversation that folks want to hear on these other platforms, right? So it's really a matter of questioning, like, what does my company stand for? Aside from making money, making people great returns, everything like that. For me, it's transforming lives through real estate. We want to make the world a better place. We want to contribute to the betterment of humanity through our real estate work. Megan can speak to that in our work with organizations like Apartment Life. In that we want to make things better at the DeRosa Group. That's what we do, and we put that brand out there, and that makes us attractable to other people's platforms. It makes it interesting, and everything like that. So that's why I think that you want to use OPA, you got to have an interesting conversation you want to bring to that stage. and that's we've worked on that for a while, and that's why I think that we continue to get asked to speak on stages, me and my teams, not just me, but myself and my team, because we have a unified message that's intriguing, that's interesting, that's a brand that's interesting enough that people want to hear about it on those
Yeah,
stages.
and that's so key, man. And Hunter talked
Mm-hmm.
about this is like knowing what you want when you go on a stage,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so the more clear your story is, and so early on, interesting to caveat that a little bit, Matt. I think that's so great. But like, if you're still trying to figure out that story, that's fine. Or you don't know what that big story is. Even having like a keynote or like a
Mm-hmm.
key message, like for me early on, when I was still a pastor, I created a due diligence checklist. And that's what I went on podcast with, talking about our our process of due diligence as a passive investor. And so we were using that kind of as our story. And so I love that tip, man, of like when you're going on stages, we've been working a lot of this in our mastermind, is developing a keynote or multiple keynotes that you're ready to deliver right at any point. And then when you reach out to these stages, hey, I can come on your stage and I can talk about these 3 things.
Mm-hmm.
That's so much better than saying, oh, I'm a multifamily investor, I can talk about multifamily investing. Well, no crap. Like, so can half the
A lot of
population or
people.
anyone who
A
watch a
lot of
10-minute
people.
YouTube video. You know what I
More,
mean?
more every day, brother.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's good, man.
Good.
Talk about real quick. How do you get so in with BP with bigger pockets? Like, that's a huge stage, and I'm sure you've gotten a lot of investors from that.
We're in the right place at the right time.
Yeah.
We were in the right place at the right time. And that they were in a fledgling state. They were a growing company. And we were blessed, man. They needed someone to come in and commit to write articles on a weekly basis. And Liz and I, my wife, agreed to do that. And a lot of people are like, oh, I'd write articles every week. That's a lot. There's, 1,500 words is a lot to write on a weekly basis, right? So at the end of the day, we were willing to do what it took to be a contributor and to contribute to the space. And I think a lot of people are like, oh, geez, I wish I could be on Bigger Pockets or whatever. Well, we wrote 50 articles before we got invited to the podcast the first time. Right. And the only reason why we got invited to the podcast was because a big name, like a Grant Cardone level name, canceled. And we got a call the day before the podcast saying, hey, can you guys be on the show? So it's about to get on a big stage like that. It's about being ready and waiting, and having your hand Johnny on the spot, and then being willing to drop what you could do to take that stage. If you listen very closely to show number 88, which is the first show, but on the show 3 times, but the first show I was on was show number 88. If you listen real close, you can hear a baby crying in the background. That's my son. He's 6 months old, crying in the other room. He's 7 now, but he was 6 months old, crying in the other room with my administrative assistant watching him because we had no childcare that day. But Liz and I weren't like, oh, we have a sitter, or I already have plans that day, or whatever it was. We were like, nope, we'll do it. Clear my calendar. I will be on the show. No problem. So it's about being ready and willing to contribute. And then when the phone rings, being there to pick it up and answer and be unreasonable with what it's going to take to be on that, to make it to that stage. A lot of people say they wish they could do it, or I wish Matt got a bigger pockets or whatever. Well, we were available and willing and ready to swing at the ball when it came across the plate for us. So, and then years later, after writing more articles and after doing a lot of YouTubing and more videos for them and showing that we were willing to just be a contributor, and just give to Bigger Pockets, and contribute stuff. And it was never like, and a lot of people have gone to Bigger Pockets and said, oh, I want to write a free article for you. And you can put it up and then people can just download it, or if they give me their email address. You're really just trying to harvest the community, right? It's inauthentic to do that, right? We just came on and we just said, we want to contribute on no questions asked, one way. Do unto others, man. Just give it one way, and we knew it would come back. And that's why I continue to get asked to speak on Bigger Pockets and work with them, is because it's not my intention to like go out there and to list build or look at Bigger Pockets as a funnel, right? It's not. It's just an organization. You got to align with their goals. There's nobody on there selling courses. Nobody on there has, back of the room stuff. It's just help people get where they want to go. And if you're willing to come in and just help people, period, it will come back, right? But that takes faith. And that takes not like, oh, let me list build, let me get in and try and get people's email addresses to read my articles, or, you know, make them click on this thing, or come to my free class or something like that. It's all about just giving value and stopping there. That's it. And that's what we
Man,
did. And we keep getting invited back, including invited to write a book that's now
that's
now
so
an Amazon
key.
bestseller.
Like
Thank you.
the principle there is like, if you got white calendar on your space on, if you got white space on your calendar, I mean, like you need to be saying yes. Like I think the journey in every entrepreneur's life, Matt, is you say yes. You start with yes. Every opportunity is yes. Every writing opportunity. Don't worry about the audience. And eventually over time, you say yes more than you say no. And then as you begin to grow, you say no more than you say yes, right? But like, if you're starting out or you haven't started creating content, I think that's so good, man. I'm writing for a magazine right now, and I don't know if anyone sees it. I don't think we've gotten any leads from it. But you know,
Never
that's
know.
created. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I ever will or not. But you know what it has created? It's created connections. They've been invited to speak at their conference now, which created some connections. I got an award, which again really hasn't done much for my business, but I can talk about it. So like there's things that just because I said yes, and just like you, I just keep writing content. I keep writing
Yeah.
content. And then here's the thing though, you can repurpose that content. Just because I write for them, I take that same article and I put it on LinkedIn, I put it on my website. And so like I'm finding ways to redistribute and repurpose that as well. So I think that's so good, man, is like saying yes early on.
And the other thing I would say to that, Ellis, is what's great about the internet now is any content you create lives forever, right? And so somebody could Google. The other thing about creating content, which we haven't gotten to yet, is it's an online resume. If I Google Ellis Hammond, among all the awesome stuff I'm going to see on your name out there, as I'm also going to see those articles you wrote, right?
Right.
And if I want to invest with Ellis, I can research you and see your fingerprints that you put online about yourself years ago, right? Years ago. There's people that have reached out to me on stuff that I wrote 5 years ago online, right? So you just never know. And so what I like about what you're doing, regardless of, you know, how many leads you gotten from it today, it's evergreen, man.
Yeah.
And as long as those sites stay in business, at the end of the day, that fingerprint's always online, and it's always just great for people. So what I would say to your listeners is, if you get asked to write, do it. If you get asked to be in a video, do it, because it'll be there. Just be clear what your brand and what your message is that you're putting out there to the world, and what is it you want to say in this megaphone that you've been given, you know?
That's so good. And it's so much more powerful, guys. You're thinking about this from an investor process, going back to what we're trying to do, raise money. When Hunter talked about case study or sending articles, it is a lot more powerful to send an article that you've written that got published in something else than like an article on your web page, right? Like if I talk about my fund and say, oh, cool, here's my website to talk about my fund, or and our fund just got published in like the Dallas Chronicle or something. The Dallas Chronicle published it. That's a lot bigger, right? So like it's thinking exactly what you said, the credibility of now I'm published along this whatever goes a long ways. So that's really good, Matt. Here's the last thing I want to ask you, man, is this topic of securing lifetime investors. And we've been talking about top of the funnel stuff, man, but what I want to ask you about is, and maybe you can share this story. There's two things I want to pull out of this conversation. The question is, how do you secure a lifetime investor? One of the ways that I know you've done that is your ethics, and you were a man of your word, and even when things got really difficult, you did what you said you were going to do. So can you talk about that from an ethics perspective, and then just from a strategy or system standpoint, what you might do just to keep people coming back? We've done the hard work of bringing them into your ecosystem. How do you keep them investing with you for a lifetime?
It's just a few words, man. And it goes back to, you know, core, do unto others, you know, and I'll expand on that. And it goes back to gratitude, you know? So I never stop being in awe and grateful that people are investing with me. I'm like, these people want to put how much with me, you know? And I'm so grateful. And I take it with such, with such awe. that I get to help people put this money to work.
Mm.
And you never lose sight of the magic of the seat that we're in as syndicators and as fund operators, that we can take these people's money and put it to work. You don't ever want to just lose sight of that, because I think that that's where you kind of lose some of the magic and some of the revere and some of the respect for their capital. And that you view yourself as a custodian, you're treating it like a little egg, and you got to put it in the right place. Now that goes back to do unto others, meaning when people invest with me, I never stop like thinking about how can I take care of these folks. And if something bad happens, which we had $750,000 stolen from us on a deal we did a couple of years ago. And I can't speak for other syndicators, but I'd be willing to bet I'm not the only, maybe you're not the only one that would have did what we did, but I'm sure a lot of folks would not have done what we did, which is we could have just said, hey, investors, we got robbed. And we did. We were involved in an awful scheme with this 1031 exchange administrator, that had millions, way more than what we had tied up with him, that had a lot of people, including very savvy business people tied up, right? And we chose to cover our investors with our own capital, our own equity, right? Meaning we gave them pretty much the equivalent of our side of a new project they were 1031ing into. And I could have just said, hey guys, we were robbed. I'll let you know when the money comes back, right? No, I chose not to do that. And so I chose to look at myself as a custodian for their money and to put their needs, investors first, above mine. I can't say that everybody would do that. We did. We put them their needs well above ours. And we're now selling the apartment complex that money would have rolled into. And what's great is the sale of that complex is going to generate an enormous amount of revenue, but like a lot of that revenue, around half of it, is going to go to those investors to cover them and to give them not just to cover them, to give them their money back. They're getting a rate of return as if their money was in the deal, right? They were treated as if their money didn't go into the deal, but I'm paying them as if it did. Wow. Think about that. Wow. Not just, hey guys, here's your money back. Here's profit that because I want you to be treated as if you were in this. And so that's why I'm giving this to you. And I have no attachment to whether or not they invest with me again. I'm proud of what I did. I can sleep very well at night knowing that I covered them, and more than covered them, and treated them as if it were my money in the deal. And but it's bigger than my money. It's custodial up here, money that for people that believed in me. And that. So I think that that's what you need to be prepared for as syndicators, to put your investors all the way up here. So
Matt, how many times have you shared that with new investors, and that's gotten you like that story of taking care of old investors gotten you new investors?
Many times, because people have said, what's the worst thing that's ever happened? And I'm like, well, I hope you're sitting down, because I'll tell you a story. I mean, it ought to be a 2020 story with what happened with this guy, but at the end of the day, we were able to make it right and make it better. We didn't just make it right, Ellis. We made it great. We made it better. We took that awful thing and we made it great for those investors. And now I can look back on that as a story to talk about how, and if, by the way, if you're interviewing a syndicator and you ask them what's the worst thing that's happened, or have you ever had bad things happen in syndications or things happen unexpected, and they tell you no, run the other way, because they either haven't been in business for long enough for bad things to happen, or they're not telling you, they're not being truthful with you about it, because not everything in this business goes to plan. There's just too many variables. There's just so many things that happen in the syndication space. So somebody's telling you they've never had anything bad happen in their business, they haven't been in business for long enough, or they're really just not facing it. It really has to do with what they do when things get rough, and how they react in that. And I would want to work with a syndicator that's authentic, that's willing to tell you the true story and how they reacted to it and what they did and what they're willing to do again for me as an investor.
Matt, I'm so glad you came on last, brother, because I think we've talked a lot about marketing and bringing people into our funnel, but there's nothing that can replace, like, you can be the best marketer in the world, but if you're not ethical and do it and stay true to your word and take care of people, you don't deserve to be in business, and you won't be in business very long, no matter how good a marketer or business person you are. And so, dude, that's why I brought you on, and that's why I asked you those questions, because we can talk about top all day. But if we're not true to our word and we're not doing what we say and we're not serious about honoring God and taking care of people, we don't deserve to be in this business, and you won't be in business very long. This is good business practice.
Word gets out, man. Word gets
Right?
out,
You
brother.
you had the mindset of this. I'm not doing one deal. I'm doing dozens of deals. I'm building $1 billion portfolio. If I can't figure out how to take care of investors in this one mess up, I don't deserve to be in this business long term. So I just appreciate that long term approach, man, and even helping us think about like, okay, do I take care of my investors like that today? Even if I don't need money to be stolen from me to follow up on my word and to do what I say.
That's right.
So I think that's right.
Now, I hope that doesn't happen to anybody, because it was one of the worst things that ever happened to me, and it was one of the most trying times that I've been through. But I got through it, and I came out even stronger. But yeah, it does go back to people, Ellis, and that's the one thing people forget. You forget when it comes down to just magnetizing new investors and how do you build a funnel and how do you market. That's all great. And you need to do that, right? Because you can't do business by yourself. You need people to work with you. But if you also need to gut check and make sure you're willing to do the right thing, when times get tough, and be willing to broadcast and be proud of what you've done, that you've done the right thing for yourself and for your investors. So it's good stuff. Thank you.
Matt, so your book, they know where to go get that. You've got a ton of content on Bigger Pockets. Where else, man, can they go and learn from you and get in touch with you?
Just my company website, DeRosa Group. I see a few of my insiders members here. They can go to derosagroup.com. And if you want to just I got an easy one. Just take out your cell phone. I got a bunch of free resources. Just text the word DeRosa, my company name, to the number 66866. The few presentations I did for Bigger Pockets to their conference in Nashville, that presentation's there at that you'll get a reply back. Text the word DeRosa to 66866. You'll also get a link to join our insiders community, which people spend more on coffee per month than you would spend on insiders. It's a very affordable community, $24 a month in exchange for direct access to me and my team on a regular basis through Facebook Lives and property tours, all kinds of cool stuff. So
I love it. I hope everyone listen. Like you are getting the master class. Like we've seen it all today. Like people, if you want to grow your company, you have to come in and know what you want, provide value, provide a ton of value, and know what listen, the 3 rules of success: have a great attitude, show up, and know what you want. If you can do those things every day, have a great attitude, show up, and know exactly what you want when you show up, you can have anything in life. And Matt, I appreciate you coming and knowing exactly what you do. I love that. He's got a number you can text. That is an amazing call to action. Brother, I'm so grateful to have you, man. I look forward to meeting in person here soon. And hopefully let's get on a future deal together, man. I know we've chatted around that. So you guys, I'll reach out and see what you guys are working on, and we'll stay in touch, man.